Welcome to The Real Marketing Show. This month, we're talking about the Facebook ad changes for real estate agents. I'm interviewing Jeff Pfitzer, and I've got some events you should definitely check out. Let's get into it. Do your Facebook real estate ads keep getting disapproved? Well, you certainly aren't alone. At the end of 2019, Facebook began restricting targeting options for U.S. businesses with services related to housing, employment, and credit. This drastic change very much affects the real estate industry and your partners in the mortgage industry too, amongst others. Businesses who deal with these three categories of service must check a box to classify their Facebook ads as part of a special ad category. And that removes their ability to target people based on demographic information, including age, gender, zip code, income, job titles, and more. The restriction on geographic targeting also means you can only create a target area with a minimum 15-mile radius. That's a pretty big area. You can still create audiences based on people's interests, which Facebook tracks through their online behavior, and that can be fairly useful. These changes were made to prevent businesses from running discriminatory ad campaigns, like a realtor who only shows their listings to women. That's not okay, and it blatantly violates the Fair Housing Act. That being said, Facebook changes are somewhat of a blanket policy for many agents, especially if you have a business page that has the word realtor or real estate agent in it. So far, Facebook bots that check ad content are automatically flagging any content from real estate related pages. That means you have to run ads within the special ad category, even if you're running an ad about your favorite nonprofit or favorite restaurant in town, something completely unrelated to real estate or housing. Yeah, it's frustrating. If it's really important to you though to get your non-housing related ad approved without those targeting restrictions, you can file an appeal in Ads Manager, or you can try to talk to a Facebook representative through their online chat, but don't have high expectations. A good rule is to always check the special ad category if you run a real estate ad or any ad at all, and make sure you follow the rules. Hopefully over time, they'll change them. So I'm talking to Jill Farmer, who is the speaker at the upcoming Coffee and Conversation. So Jill, tell me a little bit about your presentation.
I'm really looking forward to this month. We're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, which is called Amp Up Your Success.
Okay.
And in that program, it's designed to really help people look for ways that they can get the maximum use of their time, get more meaningful work done in less time. Here's the kicker, with less stress.
Oh, okay.
Because there's a lot of times when we try to do things better and faster that we actually increase our anxiety and stress level, which ultimately ends up hurting our performance. So this is based on the latest brain science, the latest behavioral science, so people can understand how they can do things more effectively and efficiently and lower that stress and anxiety level, which we know delivers a better product in the end.
Very cool. So it sounds like two wins here, right? Save time and less stress as well.
That's right. You can live longer in the process too.
Well, so are there, we're talking mostly to real estate agents
Yeah.
here. So are there any guidance you can give us in terms of are there certain situations realtors might be facing that this would really help, or a certain part of their career where they should attend this?
I think at any level of a real estate agent's career, the biggest problem is there always feels like there's too much to do and not enough time to do it in. Whether it's if you're needing to build your business, you should be doing more on that. If your business is built and successful, how do you take care of all the needs of the customers? And so I think one of the most helpful things in working with real estate professionals that I have in the past is when people learn to get more efficient and effective with the tools that I teach and lower their stress levels, they get much better at prioritizing.
Oh,
and when you prioritize, that's where the money is, right? Because that's when you get the one thing that needs to get done and moving in the order of priority order. You get more efficient, again, more effective, better product, better service, more success.
Wow, and so it sounds like even making more money might be an outcome here.
Always.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, well, I'm definitely excited for this. For those of you watching, this is Coffee and Conversation. It's going to be on February 24th from 9 to 10 a.m., and you can find all the details in the event associated with this video. We hope you can join us. Here are a few more events we'd recommend for real estate agents here in the St. Louis area. Coming up on February 20th, we're going to be hearing from best-selling author and Top Gun Air Force pilot Rob Cujo Teschner at Mastermind St. Louis. That's going to be from 10 to 11:30 a.m. at Orlando Gardens. It should be a lot of fun. It's also a great networking opportunity with generally about a couple hundred people there that you can meet and get to know. Another one I'd recommend is coming to hear from me at Lunch with Ernest. That's going to be on March 18th from 11:30 to 1 a.m. at Edgewild in Chesterfield. And we're going to be talking about how real estate agents can shift their communication to video. Video is really more than just a marketing tool, and it's something you need to learn how to use throughout your business. We're going to be talking all about that at Lunch with Ernest, and includes a free lunch, which is a great opportunity to share an awesome meal and meet some great people. St. Louis Realtors has an event coming up on March 20th, and that's the RPAC 2020 Trivia Night, Trivia Through the Decades. It's gonna be from 6 to 10 o'clock p.m., and it's $25 per person. Sounds like a lot of fun. You should definitely check it out, especially if you're a trivia master. Women's Council of Realtors in St. Charles actually has a couple events coming up in March. So on March 5th, they're doing the Marketing Extravaganza with Raising Sales at Backdoor Comedy Club in Cottoville. A few of the things they're going to be talking about: social media workshop, the ins, outs, and do's and don'ts of social media, apps and platforms that agents should use to close more work and actually work less, and then also what agents are doing wrong on social media and how to fix it. It's also going to feature Ryan Kerner, who's a real estate attorney and owner of Freedom Title, to answer any and all of your real estate legal questions and helpful ideas to get tricky titles closed easily. They're also doing what sounds like a really fun trivia night on March 13th. That's the Hollywood Music and Movie Trivia at Piazza Messina in Cottoville. You can reserve either a table or you can buy your own individual tickets. And a couple cool things is that they're going to have Russo's Catering available. You can actually order it directly to your table if you wish, and they'll send a PayPal link out in advance so you can see the menu, decide what you might want to get. There's going to be some giveaways, prizes, even a prize for the best table theme. So again, if you're into trivia, it sounds like this is an opportunity. Got a couple trivia opportunities this month to check out. Talking to Jeff Pfitzer from USA Mortgage, and Jeff is the leader of the Pfitzer region, right?
That's right.
Yeah, so region, that's a pretty broad term, and you guys are like in multiple cities at this point, so tell me about the business a little bit.
Yeah. So it basically all started, so the region is just a word, and we just kind of created it ourselves, and basically because we were always branches at USA. Anybody knows USA in St. Louis. But we started to grow on a national level, and we are in a bunch of cities now, so we just felt like the name region needed to be tied to it because it feels like it's bigger than a branch, and that's why we went that way.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like, it allows you to grow kind of as much as you want, right?
Absolutely.
Very cool. Well, I wanted to start there because I want people to really understand kind of where you've gotten over the past few years, right? So tell me how many lenders you're working with at this point.
Well, our group is now, we're total of 43 people and growing. And then we are so we're St. Louis, Edwardsville, Lake Charles, Louisiana, Atlanta, Georgia, West Palm Beach, Florida, and Madison, Wisconsin. And about ready to add 2 more in Georgia next month.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
That's great progress.
Thank you.
And I want to start there because I want people to understand, this has happened just in the past few years, right? Like, your business has really exploded. And what we want to do today is we want to kind of dig into that as much as possible and help people leave this conversation with some actionable steps that they can take, right?
Awesome.
So the two things, and you tell me if I'm on the right path here, that I've kind of seen about your business the past few years is that dominate with video. You guys put out a ton of video, a lot of really awesome content. And then I'm also really impressed with kind of the way you've leveraged relationships, and in particular getting your way into real estate groups. Because if you think about it, you're very well known, but specifically among real estate agents, which as a lender is obviously what you're going for, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that. Like, what does your typical week look like at this point? Yeah.
Well, taking a few steps back a few years ago, I mean, the whole premise behind starting to do video was we had actually switched companies. We left USA Mortgage. Okay. And so when we left, my immediate mindset was, all right, now I'm competing with USA, the biggest lender in my market. I'm competing with Ron Mueller. And so how can I differentiate myself? How can I be better? Or how can I be different so I stand out? And at that time, there was a guy locally who was doing some Facebook Lives. It was just starting to come not really mainstream, but to be used to where you're not just videoing your kids at a soccer game. It was like actually using it for business. And I was intrigued. And so I just thought, I feel like he's onto something. I better get on this bandwagon. And so I started doing some Facebook Lives, and I really sucked at it. And I said 10,000 ums, and I looked nervous, and I was nervous. I still get nervous, by the way, for lives, just for anybody out there, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many videos you shoot, you still get butterflies. And then it's just evolved into, I ended up, so those videos got me seen, and so people started taking notice, which then got me introduced to people in other markets. And I met a guy in Chicago who then introduced me to a videographer, and I started watching him, and he was doing some really funny, entertaining, goofy stuff in front of a green screen. And this was before green screen was mainstream. And so I just decided to take some chances. And I was like, I love how you did that. I want to spin it back to real estate and mortgage and do my own stuff. And I still remember the first green screen that I did was like displaying your personality. And it was mainly still images, but we just had a lot of fun with it. And it was goofy, it was off the wall, the background music was footloose, and people took notice. And it got, 1,500, 2,000 organic views like that.
Really?
Because I was doing something nobody was doing. And most people were laughing at it.
Of course, right?
But it kind of just spurned the idea behind, holy crap, this can work. And then it just evolved into where we are today.
Cool. Well, so I know, obviously getting started with video early, right? Because we're talking, 4 years ago?
Something like that
at this point?
Yep.
So the things you're saying now are what I think the average person is starting to say today,
Right.
but 4 years later, right?
Right.
Once it's kind of become more mainstream. So, that's obviously a huge part of this, right? Being an early adopter and a huge kind of shift in communication is a big deal. One other part of this that I think you did a great job of, obviously, is then using that attention you're getting to start leveraging it into kind of higher and more powerful relationships, right? Because, at this point, kind of your claim to fame, at least the way I think I've gotten to know you the best, is through lab coat agents, right? Yep. So talk to me a little bit about, what is lab coat agents for those of us that haven't heard of it, and then how did you get involved there and become kind of one of the most well-known people in that group?
Yeah, right. So lab coat agents is the largest social media real estate group on the planet. Right now, it's 110,000 plus real estate professionals. And it is a group that was designed by a guy named Tristan Ahumada, who he and I have become very good friends. And literally, his concept was, I'm going to create a Facebook group where we can get together and collaborate. And if you have a question about anything throughout the process, put it in the group and let's all just share stories. Let's share ideas. Okay. And obviously it's morphed into this massive thing now. And it's probably, it is the biggest group and probably the most powerful real estate group out there. And there's a ton of them now. Wow. But basically, if you have a question, if you have a scenario, something happened to you throughout your day and you're just curious what other people are going through, put it in the group. You'll probably get 100 plus comments. You'll get more engagement and more feedback than you can possibly ask for. And so that's what Lab Coat Agents is. And then, so for me, it's real estate. So I think the biggest mistake that most salespeople make in general is you just feel like when I get onto social media, when I get in front of the camera, I need to tell my audience and the world about what I do for a living.
Right, yeah.
But the reality is nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear that content, right? And so Lab Coats is the same way. It's specific for me, obviously, but as a lender, if I went in there, which a lot of lenders make this mistake, and if you go into a group like that and say, look at me, I'm great, and I have this program, and I can get a loan done in X number of days, and blah, 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 you're going to get completely ignored. They're going to look at you like just a slimy used car salesman, and you're probably going to get kicked out of the group.
Right, yeah.
And so just kind of by default, I just went in there realizing, well, how do I get known and get seen? And the answer was bring value. And so I just kind of positioned myself as an authority on a topic, and by default that ended up becoming video. And I realized quickly that there's not a lot of people in this space that are doing it at a high level, so I'm going to go ahead and share my expertise, and people will take notice. And they did. And then honestly, I get this all the time, as people will look at me and say, I had no idea you were in mortgage. And that's the point. And so even as a real estate agent, I know people think to themselves, well, then how do they know what I do?
Right, yeah.
It's different. Obviously there's my content rule is like 80% plus personal authentic content, 20 or less percent business content, just to remind people what you do. But that's the same technique I've used to kind of gain, I guess, notoriety and popularity, or whatever you want to call it, and attract. Because that was the biggest piece, is I was tired as a lender of constantly calling on agents saying, meet me for a cup of coffee and let me tell you why I'm different. We're all doing that. That doesn't work anymore. And so how can you kind of swim upstream, get people calling you because they want you to help them with their business? And that's exactly what I've done.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, so I think that's kind of counterintuitive for a lot of people, right? Because they're so used to that, hey, I got to tell people what I do, and then here you are, like people don't even know what you do, and yet you're being invited to speak all over the country, and it's working even better for the business, right? Because I mean, you're working with what you said, 43 people across the country, thousands of real estate agents not only know you, but they like you and they respect you, and you know they're excited to refer business to your team.
Absolutely.
So if somebody's sitting out there and they're hearing this and maybe it's still not making sense, right? Because they're like, I know, but like, should I just tell people I'm an agent all the time, or do house walkthrough videos, make sure it's very clear I'm an agent?
Right.
You were able to benefit by being early in video, right? So you can get out there and you can talk about video, and that's very helpful to real estate agents, right? A lot of them are not there, right? And they're not going to necessarily use that same technique of teaching a business skill to someone else. And I think the struggle is always kind of I'm told to deliver value.
Yep.
What the hell does that mean, right? So like, what are some examples you've seen that have worked well?
Okay, so first of all, you got to get seen.
Yeah.
You've got to create followers. And so I was going back to the social media thing, and in order to do that, if you're constantly talking about real estate, which is not applicable to most humans because they're only buying once every 7 years or whatever, they're going to stop following you, and you're going to stop showing up in their feed because you got to play the algorithm game. So what is going to attract their eyeballs? Well, it's authentic content. People are actually curious about what you're doing with your life, your travels, where you're eating, what you're doing, your kids, your pets, all that stuff. Share more of it.
Okay.
Very simply. Once you gain that following, once you gain those eyeballs, you have to look at your real estate content and try to spin it to where it's entertaining.
Okay.
And I'm not saying you have to be goofy or be able to sing and do parodies or dance or whatever, but you've got to figure out a way to gain those eyeballs. So when you think about, I'll just use an example, and I've created videos, like side-by-side videos to display this.
Sure.
You go on your feed on a Saturday and you can find 10 to 20 real estate agents holding their phones saying, here I am standing in front of 123 Main Street. Let me show you. I'm here for an open house.
Right, yeah.
My point was there's 10 to 20 of them. You're so used to it, you're just going to scroll right past it, right? So how can you deliver it differently to where somebody will actually take notice? And it's all in how you deliver it. So what we teach is, and I learned this from somebody else, Sharon Srivatsa, actually, I'll tell you that, is that when you're creating a video, always start it with a hook.
Yeah.
Don't ever start with an intro because you have like 3 seconds maybe to capture their attention.
Right.
So when you start it with, hey, happy Sunday, or hey, it's Jeff here, gone. They're already gone.
Right.
Rather than when you're standing in front of a property, give them what you want to share. Like tease them, create intrigue.
Okay.
And so it doesn't matter what your video is, doesn't matter what you're talking about. Think about how you can hook them. Think about how, if you're watching the video, what is something that you can say that's going to be like, what's he talking about?
Okay.
I want to see this swimming pool. I want to see this new kitchen. And so you can grab them in. And so that's like the most basic advice I can give any agent is when they're creating content or when they're creating video content, hook, then intro yourself, then tell a story. This is second most important to the hook is tell a story. Always create something that gives you a feel good. You can always create something out of nothing. And then a call to action.
Okay.
That's another thing a lot of people forget to put into videos. It's like, what is the call to action?
Yeah, what's the
when
next
is
step,
the open
right?
house? How
Yeah.
much is this house? When does it go on the market? Those are your call to actions.
Okay.
And you just have to always integrate that in. But when you say what are people doing that works, I mean, right now, one of the most popular things we're seeing is parody videos.
Right.
They're epic. You see some of the same ones I see. I mean,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
literally taking like old 80s music and changing the words. I've got one of my guys wants to do Vanilla Ice, Ice Ice Baby, and he wants to spin it into a mortgage video. And I'm like, dude, it'll be epic. It'll get thousands of views. It'll be cool as hell. And that's a little more challenging, but for those who have that creative mindset, by all means, do it.
Well, so I think that's, and that's kind of why I'm asking this, is that, like, that sounds intimidating,
Yeah,
right?
it does,
I think
yeah.
that's where, most agents, they are seeing that stuff, because it is the stuff that goes a little bit viral and,
Correct,
gets thousands and thousands of views, and they go, that's not me, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of them therefore say, well, then I guess I shouldn't be doing video, as if video is like this, niche kind of tool that only a few people are ever going to use, which is totally wrong, right? So let's kind of take, a step back maybe in your career to when you first started making video. And I think it's helpful sometimes, we can see what you're doing now 4+ years in, and you got professionals working on stuff with a lot of it, right? a team of people and all that. When you first started, I mean, were you using a phone or like what were the tools for one?
Yeah, 100%. Your phone. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
That's it. Nothing else. I didn't even have a tripod.
So no tools other than the one you have.
Nothing. Yeah. And this is before even AirPods. So, now AirPods are really a sufficient use of a microphone, and that's why I always tell agents, I'm like, if you have AirPods, use them when you're doing your videos because the sound is much crisper. Otherwise, invest in a lav mic. Or if you want to take it one step further, a wireless. But, it's just crawl before you walk and just play around with this stuff. But
yeah, so you start with, just the phone, right? The next thing I think is, obviously if somebody's seeing like a parody video, I mean, that's way down the road for them, right? Yeah. So would you recommend starting talking about real estate? I mean, what's kind of like if your first 5 videos, right? You're just trying to get used to the idea of doing it. Is it something where I should make, a live video and put it out on Facebook? Should I do maybe a video email? I mean, what do you think is kind of like the first couple steps for somebody getting started with video?
So it's a combo of all of that. And I do tell even my own people, like, to become comfortable in front of the camera, get a service like BombBomb.
Okay.
And use it as a supplement to your emailing or texting. Like, you're already going to email or text your client saying, this is the next step in the process, and here's a list of the documents that I need, or here attached are the things you need to sign. Just embed a video with the text that can inflect who you are. And it can inflect excitement to say, congratulations, I'm so happy for you. I always tell people, like, imagine you have a client that walked into your office and said, I want to buy a house. How are you going to react? You're going to show some enthusiasm and some excitement. And so pretend like they're standing in front of you. How would you talk to them? Do the same thing in BombBomb.
Gotcha.
Pretend like you're talking to them and use that as your way to get comfortable in front of the camera. That's by far the best way to get comfortable.
So why do you think that's a good way to start?
Because it's something you're already doing.
Right.
So you're already going to send that email. It takes an extra 10 seconds to add a video on, and you'll find when you start doing it, number one, most clients will say, wow, nobody's doing this. This is really neat.
Yeah.
2, a lot of times we don't meet our clients, especially in the mortgage world, maybe until closing. And so this is the way that you differentiate yourself from every other lender out there, because now they get to know you without knowing you.
Right.
And so it's such a unique advantage. Plus, most people don't want to read 2 paragraphs of text.
Especially about a mortgage.
Correct. So if you can explain it to them or explain to them why the inspection process is so important, or why they have all this stack of documents that we need them to sign, or why the market has shifted and rates might be a little higher or a little lower, you can do that through BombBomb. You can even do screen shares and show charts, and you're going to give them so much more than the average person is giving them, than the person you're competing with. It's going to change the game and give you the upper hand.
Well, that's a great recommendation too, because one of the things I think of is from a referral standpoint, right? I mean, that's the kind of stuff people mention to their friends, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to go out of your way just to be like, hey, I have a mortgage lender, right? But if you say, oh man, I got this email and there's a video in it, and it was like a video just for me, like I've never seen anything like that. That's the stuff people talk about, right? So that's a kind of an easy win, I think, right off the bat. And then the other part of the BombBomb kind of effect here is you're really only talking to one person, right? I think that's where a lot of agents get scared, and I know I did, right? Because I didn't start there. I started with, I went down into the basement of our office building in a little, broom closet kind of thing, and I set up some lights and did like educational videos, right? Kind of talking head, real basic stuff. If I had started with just one-on-one BombBomb emails, I think it would have been a little bit easier.
It's
right?
less stressful.
Yeah, so it takes pressure off. And again, like I love the advice of, just say what you would say if they were there in the office.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Very cool. Okay, so you start with BombBomb. You kind of get the idea of, I'm getting comfortable, right? The next thing I think a lot of people are always going to worry about is I don't like how I look or sound on camera, right? One of your pieces of advice already was to use the AirPods or to get a lav mic, right? So that helps with sound.
Yep.
Any tips in terms of like, lighting or how you sit or anything somebody can do to kind of look their best?
I mean, it depends who you're talking to. Talking to, guys like you guys at Connect Marketing, obviously, and knowing that I have videographers who cringe when I give advice because lighting is important and sound is important. But the truth is content is the most important. My best tip is get over it.
Okay, good, because that's why I'm asking is like, this is just what people say all the time, right?
Listen, think about when you were a teenager and you had zits and you're looking in the mirror and to you that one zit just is like a beacon of light, right? But when you go to school, it's like nobody's really, it bothers you way more than it bothers anybody else. And women, this is especially critical for because you're always so concerned with how you look and how you sound. And we are our own worst critics, 1,000,000%. and you've just got to suck it up and get over it. Put it out there, because the reaction you will get will be reinforcing. Like people will, there's way more lovers out there that will support you. But that is another good point, by the way, is you're going to have haters, especially when you're doing something that no one else is doing. Like I've been doing this, I continue to do it. Now we're onto this TikTok topic where everybody is criticizing me for it. But I know I'm going to be right on this. But I also know that a part of putting that out there is I'm going to take that criticism. And so depending on your content, of course, if you're just putting out content that is, authentic content, or you're just doing the bombs, or you're just, sharing your life, you're not going to get criticized for that.
Right.
It's when you decide to be bold,
Start to state opinions
it comes
and whatnot,
correct.
right?
Then it comes with the territory, so just be prepared for it. But that takes us back to that other conversation where we got onto bomb, which is what kind of content you should be putting out.
Right.
The easiest thing to do is, what are your hobbies? What are your passions?
Okay.
Are you into fitness? Just start sharing more. And the one thing I hear people say sometimes is, well, why do people care? Nobody cares what I have to say. Stop caring about what other people might think or not. Who doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There is one or two people out there that are going to be able to relate to your life. So like with women, I always encourage them, and this just makes everyone cringe, every female cringes, do more video without being done up with your makeup.
Right.
That is the most relatable thing you can do that every woman is going to be looking at. In fact, lead in with it. Be like, this makes me really uncomfortable. I'm not done up with my makeup yet, because right there's so many women out there like, gosh, that's exactly how I feel. That's exactly how I look. And you just sucked them in. So do it. And so just be more of yourself, be more authentic, because that's what attracts people to you. And then just get in the habit of whatever it is you're passionate about. If it's cooking, if it's beer, if it's travel, if it's books, if it's whatever, crochet, it doesn't matter.
Sure.
Create content around it.
Okay.
And you're going to have a bunch of raving fans who will follow you. It might even turn into a group page, because you don't want to like with me in running and fitness, I intentionally don't crush my personal page on it, because just like real estate, I'm going to end up annoying people if I overshare.
Right. People that aren't interested in running don't want to see it.
They're going to get annoyed with me, and they're going to stop following with me because it's annoying to them. So I then created a side group where those people who want it can have it, and those who don't want it don't have to see it. And then I would just share back to my personal page the profound stuff. And so, again, I'm not interested in crocheting. I'm not interested in a lot of hobbies that you might have. So that's why you create your little cult, if you will. You create that group of raving fans, and those are the people that will follow you. And guess what? They will always remember when their friend or family is buying a house. They become a stronger referral source for you, because they remember
to refer you.
Correct. Yeah. That's the key right there. Because how many times do we show up at Thanksgiving and we're sitting around the table, and your cousin's like, "Oh yeah, we just bought a house," and you're like, "WTF?"
Yeah.
Hello. And you get pissed off, and you're mad at your cousin, when really you should look in the mirror and say, you didn't do a good enough job.
Why didn't they think of me?
Correct.
And that's your
Yeah.
fault, right?
And this is how you do it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a great point. I mean, a lot of those great points, right? That, for a lot of people, when you say talk about your personal life, right? It scares people, right? Because it's almost more vulnerable. It's like, I just want to talk about houses. I understand houses. Yeah. People expect me to talk about houses. But what I think a lot of people forget is it's relationship building. Right, so video and social media are just ways to communicate with people, right? Yeah. And the rest of it's the same, right? So if you were to go out and network with somebody, and you were to go up and say, "I'm a real estate agent," and you were only ever going to talk about that, most people would not appreciate that, right?
100%.
That's not how you network, right?
Yep.
You network by just small talk, shooting the shit, so to speak, and just having a good time.
Yep.
And you generally get onto the topics that you share with that person, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're both into running, you're going to talk about running. You're going to talk about your favorite places to run, that kind of stuff, right? Yep. And that's what I think a lot of people are missing, right? Yeah. So it's really just sharing information that's going to allow you to build that relationship.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
Very cool. Okay, so you get started. You kind of do these first bomb videos. So I'm kind of getting back into the structure a little bit. Where are you recording these? So is this something where, because I think this is another struggle for a lot of people, is like, do I shoot this at my desk in my office with a bookshelf behind me, or do I go outside? I mean, do you have any recommendations there?
Absolutely. Always be changing your background. Okay. So if you consistently are shooting the same talking head videos, which I don't recommend, by the way. I mean, do it as a part of your content, but again, mix it up. Mix up your background. So if you're always sitting in front of your desk with the same backdrop, it becomes monotonous and redundant. And so people will stop following because they just, oh, that's another of that again.
Right.
Whereas just like the hook what draws them in, so does the backdrop. So when you're standing, a lot of people like to sit in their car. I know why. There's no audience. No one can hear them.
Yeah,
and I get it. Do it because it makes you comfortable. But once you get comfortable doing it, start to get uncomfortable. And don't be afraid to do a video out in public. Don't be afraid to do a video standing in the park or in the shower. I mean, I know that's over the top, but I'm telling you, that stuff works, and that's how you grab attention. And you see this now. You see bathtub videos. You see, not inappropriate, but it's the purpose. It's the setting. If you are sitting here watching this interview right now, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, hell no. But if you do it, and you did like your next listing video, and you opened up with you sitting in a bathtub, and if you're a woman with a crop top on, so make it look like you're topless, I'm staying for that video.
People are going to watch that, right?
And then you're going to stand up, and I'm going to laugh and be like, ha ha. Granted, that's been done, but a lot of your audience have never seen that before.
Right.
And you're going to just capture so many people right then and there with that kind of concept, where they're going to be like, now I'm excited to see their next video. What are they going to do next?
Makes you curious.
Yeah, you only have to do that 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20, and then give them other content in between. You just got to realize, and I've accepted this when it comes to social, is that some of your content you're going to think is phenomenal, and you put time into it, and you scripted it, and you hired Nick to do it for you, and it's really freaking amazing. Like your Halloween video, right? And it might only get 1,000 views, and you're like, that should have been viral.
Right.
And then you put out something, this is an example that I did the other day. I even questioned myself. We were in Key West, and I put out a lot of content. One of my most viral posts lately has been, I was waiting for an Uber. I was videoing the roosters walking across the street. And I put out a content and said, why does, caption this? And I'm blown away at 3,000 views and 100 comments. And I'm like, you kidding me, people?
Right.
This is what you want? But it just goes to show you, just put it out.
Right.
Because although I disagree, that wasn't really good content. That's what my audience wanted. That's what sucked them in. And the video that I did while I was in Key West, giving them something profound, nobody cared about.
Right.
So it's just, you got to, again,
you never know.
Get over that too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and if you're not trying new things, you're never going to stumble on the next thing that works that much better, right?
Yeah.
So, I like the idea of, start simple, start in an environment where you can be as comfortable as possible, but then always have that attitude of if I'm feeling comfortable, if this is not, awkward for me anymore, then I need to be doing something new, right? Kind of continuing to push that.
Exactly.
All right, so that gives us kind of some basic first steps, right? Especially in the first year or so when somebody's getting started. I wanted to ask you, and this might be a little bit more selfish for my own education here, but as you build this out, right? So you start doing it, it's a consistent part of your business, you're making more and more video content, you're keeping yourself uncomfortable, pushing the envelope. Are there kind of one of the next steps, right? So one thing that stands out that I know you've done through Lab Coat Agents is you actually have shows now, right?
Yeah.
So do you see that as kind of an eventual goal somebody be shooting for, or what do they do once they're more comfortable with video?
So I think the question, you bring up a good point. I think the question is more of how can I use this in context to my business. I see what you're doing, Jeff, and that's cool, but that doesn't apply to me.
Yeah.
Well, it does apply to you, actually.
Sure.
And the answer is, and I kind of did it by default. Now I realize this is the answer to everything. First of all, it's surrounding yourself with what they say, surround yourself with the 5 people that you want to be the most, that's who you're the sum of, right?
Right. Yep.
Or in my world, what I always say is I always am leveling up. I always want to continue to trade up, and I know that sounds bad, but I want to hang out with people that are more successful than me because I can learn from them.
Okay.
And then to get into their sphere, you have to bring them value. You can't just go hang out with Gary Vaynerchuk and assume he's going to be here, welcome into my circle. I want you to surround, it's not going to happen. In fact, that's a bad example because he's so high level. But Tristan, for example. So again, it was by default, and selfishly, I got to know him through a mastermind that I was in, which by the way, I got invited to because I was doing unique video. They thought I was unique and could bring value. But I got to know Tristan, and I learned, I didn't even know what Lab Coat Agents was at the time. And I felt stupid after that. But then once I got to know him, I was like, I'm always trying to find ways to deliver value to my referral partner, aka agents. So could we do an event in St. Louis? And he's like, we've been talking about doing it, but everybody says they want to do it, nobody follows through. And I'm like, well, I'm telling you right now, I'll follow through. He's like, well, I'll tell you what, we'll bring a full day of content, 10 speakers, whatever, you bring it. Like, you don't have to pay us, just we'll come on our own dime, and you bring, because it's exposure for lab coats, it's exposure for the individuals. And so that then happened, and I think they took me with a grain of salt, like, yeah, another person saying they're going to do it. Well, we did it. We crushed it. We had 300 people in the room. It was at SLAR. It was really great. You were there. Yeah. And I think it really got me on their radar, like, holy cow, this guy delivered what he said he was going to do. And then it just kind of continued to evolve. So the relationship now was strengthened and started to grow. And then it just got to a point where Tristan started calling me for other things. Like, he knew I had a podcast. And the only reason I did the podcast, well, two reasons. One was to deliver value, something unique, but also was an excuse to be able to interview really successful people.
Right.
And usually when you call somebody and say, hey, you barely know me, but would you be on my podcast? They just feel good. They're like, yeah, I want to share. People just want to share. And so Tristan knew I did that. He wanted to start a Lab Coat Agents podcast. And eventually he was asking me questions. And eventually he was just like, you know what? Will you just run it? And I'm like, hell yes, I'll park mine and take this over because you're going to introduce me to way bigger people than I can touch. And selfishly, I get to now interview all of these whale success, like the Ryan Serhants of the world, Michael Mayer, all these people like I have a direct line to now. And so it just created opportunity. So I just brought value to him. Like, I gave him something that he wasn't going to execute on his own. And that's what kind of brought me up in that world. But I will tell you exactly what they've told me it was very simple. Is like, A, be humble, don't be braggadocious, and then 2, deliver value. And by value, I mean, don't go into the group, like I said, like, don't go onto social media, don't go into Lab Coat Agents and say, here I am, here's my listing, here I am, here's this program, here I am, I'm great. You're gone, you're lost right there. What I did was I just went in whenever I felt like I had something to share that I thought somebody would gain something from. You just start sharing. And believe me, my posts were relative graveyard posts for a while, but then gradually it just picked up. And then I met Noelle at an event and saw she was doing high-end video. Again, I just thought to myself, maybe we should create this show called Viral Video. And I'm not gonna lie to you, she's a very pretty girl. She's got a kind of infectious accent. Sure. And it was my idea, and I thought, if I'm gonna co-host this with somebody, I'm going to take somebody who's going to gain a ton of attention. Noelle, join me.
Draw viewers in.
I'm not stupid. I know why people watch that show. It's not for me. And then over time, it's just consistency. Because she and I have talked about this. It's like, who really is paying attention? Has it run its course? And then every time we talk through it, we're like, we need to keep doing this because it's just gaining us exposure. And then people see you consistently as the authority on a topic. And then that then creates opportunities. And so it's the same thing. And so let me equate that into what an agent can do. And that is what we call the digital mayor strategy. Okay. Same concept as what I've done, which mine's on a very macro level. This is on a very micro level. But if you as an agent went to your community, let's just say you live here in Brentwood, right? And you want to, you create a Facebook page. You don't even have to be a Facebook page. It can all be personal. But if you created a page all about Brentwood, you call it Brentwood Highlights, right? And all you do is find content that is relevant to the community. Like, is there a parade? Is there a breakfast with Santa? Is there trunk or treats? What's going on in the political arena? What's going on with the weather? What's going on with the local sports teams or the high schools or the colleges?
Local reporter,
Deliver value to where people living in Brentwood will actually see you as a resource for something that they want. Then take it one step further and build in once a month, twice a month, business spotlights. Okay. You go around to local restaurants, local business owners, specifically, ideally locally owned, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, you can go to the local Applebee's too, because it's probably owned by a local person, and spotlight them. Okay. And so all you're doing is you can do this on your own, or you can hire somebody like yourself to go out and deliver it in a higher quality fashion. And all you're doing is doing an interview, 15, 20, 30 minutes, it doesn't matter, 5 minutes, doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter if people are watching. The point is, you're going to be bringing value to the business. So number one, the business is going to be extremely thankful for you, and they're going to remember you.
Yeah, they're going to pay it back, right?
Number two, they have social media pages. Right. They're going to be so pumped to share this, they're going to share it. Your SOI just grew exponentially, and you didn't have to say a thing about real estate or mortgage because they're just going to, eventually over time, you become the resource. You become the mayor. And then when you go into the grocery store, people are like, I've seen you. And then and so every time so we've executed this in a few markets, and I've told my people, I'm like, I know you want to say something about listings or something about mortgages. Don't do it. All we're going to do is we're going to have an intro on every video that says Ralph Haar with US. It says his name and who he's with. It's just subliminal. It's just
just a little reminder.
Selling without selling.
And you see the Facebook page name and all that too.
That
right?
too, correct. And then throughout the video, we'll usually put Ralph Haar and Judy, and Judy, and it says with RE/MAX results with USA Mortgage. That's all you have to do. So get out of your own way. And then all you're doing is having a conversation with a business owner, which is actually really fascinating and fun.
Right.
And like I said, you are giving quality content to your community, and people will eat it up. They want it. And I implore people usually, because everybody's like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it for all of St. Louis. That's too macro.
Big.
It's too wide.
Right. Yep.
So really get micro on this. Focus on your community, because if I asked you as an agent when you got into the business, if you could just dominate Kirkwood, would you do it? If I told you you can own Kirkwood, you're gonna make a mint just dominating Kirkwood. So focus on doing that. So it's kind of like the billboard strategy used to be. And they're still out there, of course, but it's not what it used to be. If you're on a billboard, if you're on the print media, you are the mayor, realtor of the community. Now it's all social media, and there's so much opportunity because so few people are doing it because it's consistency. And a lot of people just, they can't remain consistent. They're not disciplined, or they lose focus because, that video only got 200 views.
Right. Is it worth it?
And so we did one, just to give you an example, in Columbia, Illinois. There's like 275 followers of this page, which I don't expect it to be massive. It's just Columbia, Illinois. I'm not going to follow that page. I'm not interested. But they've had a few videos recently that have gotten several thousand views.
Wow.
275 people follow that page. Guess what? That means they saw the video, they liked it so much, they shared it. Look at the exposure that they're getting.
Yeah,
it was
awesome.
basically free because you can execute this with a cell phone, with an interview lav mic set, and you can set it up to where you can use natural lighting. You don't need the fancy lights like we have in here.
Good windows and you're good to go, right?
It doesn't really matter. It's more about the content and what you're giving back.
Yeah,
and that strategy's it's power. So again, it goes back to, how can you deliver value? How can you bring value to, for me, it was Tristan. For you, it's your community. And so it's like, Susie homeowner down the street, you want her to think of you as the resource.
Right, the local expert.
Correct.
Right.
And what's the best way you're going to suck them in? And when they start following that page and they see you constantly delivering high quality value, and they look at you as the resource for what's happening for this next holiday, invariably they're going to end up following you on a personal level too. And then they're going to get to know you, because if you do what I tell you to do, you're going to be sharing your life. And then they get to know you. I mean, if I could tell you the amount of conversations I've had with people, and this is kind of by accident, but now I realized how much it works, where I talk to these agents all over the country who will tell me, you don't know who I am, but man, I feel like I really know you. Yeah, and I'm like, boom, you don't even realize it, but it's like, it worked.
Yeah.
And that's all you're doing. And I'm telling you, they would not have followed me if I was talking about FHA programs and if I was talking about down payments. Nobody's going to follow that stuff.
Yeah. Well, and what I love about this, because there's a lot there to kind of unpack a little bit. But no, it's great. I mean, what I like is, my background is marketing fundamentals, right? So like, what are those kind of cardinal rules you learn back in college, so to speak? And this kind of bakes them in automatically, right? So one I think of a lot is audience, right? So what you're talking about is, hey, if you talk about an entire St. Louis region, and one day you talk about Wentzville, and the next you're talking about South County, well, Wentzvillians, if that's what you call them, right?
Yeah, sure.
They're going to care about that first video, and they won't care about the South County video because they don't cross the river. Correct. So who cares about that, right? And basically what you're doing is you're just kind of like introducing yourself to a bunch of different people over and over and over again, and then not saying anything else they care about, right?
Exactly.
So narrowing the audience actually works substantially better, because now every single thing I do, the same people are going to care about, and that's going to give them that repetition, that time to get to know me, right? So that's a big one. Another one is the consistency, because what we've seen is like any kind of advertising you do, if you continue doing it as long as you possibly can, it will eventually have a good ROI, right? Yep. Most small businesses, they kind of try things once or twice and they give up, right? Yep. Like I said, put out a couple videos, I only got a couple hundred views, I'm not going to do video anymore, right?
I didn't sell anything with this video.
Yeah, what was the ROI on that first video I put out, right? So consistency is key. Now, that's kind of my next question, though, is a lot of these, agents, they're looking at this stuff and they're used to things like buying leads, right? They're used to kind of that sense that I'm going to spend some money or time and I'm going to immediately have something that I'm getting in return. Yep. And then they always like to ask about ROI, right? Yep. So what's going to be my ROI? How quickly can someone expect this stuff to really start to work? And if it does take some time, are there things they can be measuring in the meantime to know if they're on the right track?
Right. So I think the first thing I would say is this is not like the only strategy you're going to execute. You're going to implement. You're still going to use calling on FSBOs or door knocking or the timeless strategies in prospecting and all those sort of things. This is just an additional one, and it is a long game. I don't think you can put an actual time frame because it's going to be different for everybody. For me, it was 2 to 3 years. Okay. It's a long game.
Yeah.
But this is what, for me, it's like when I sit back and study and I analyze I'm like a broker. That's how much I'm in the real estate game. Is I'm looking at these agents who are constantly looking for the fast buck. I mean, that's in any industry. You buy a lead for a fast turn, which gets harder. It continues to evolve. It gets more expensive. You're going to be on the chase for your entire career. Yeah. If you're looking for quick turn, you're going to be chasing your entire career. And if that's you, great, do it. You're going to love it. But I would wager to bet most don't want to do that forever. So then you've got to go back to the consistency. No, it's going to take 2 to 3 years. However, I will argue with anybody till I'm blue in the face, it is the most sustainable business plan you could possibly have. Because when you build up your brand to where people recognize you, you don't have to hustle quite as hard as you did 2-3 years building it up.
Not at all.
Because by that point, people just remember you. And then it becomes like a third arm. I tease with my wife all the time. I'm like, because she's like, my gosh, you're exhausting. You're always posting. But she gets it. Like she sees it. And now, my kids, my family, they embrace it. It's like, Dad, we need to do a TikTok today. And I'm like, yes.
There you go.
And so it just becomes a part.
Teach them early that way.
That's right. Well, it's easy for kids nowadays. They're bred and born. Everybody who has teenagers knows.
I know.
Put them in front of a camera, they'll own it. It's like just natural for them.
Yeah.
It's
easier than talking to somebody face to face for a lot of them, right?
It's pretty sad, really. But it is. It's the world that we're moving into. Right, it's just don't fight it, embrace it. It is what it is.
Sure.
And so it is a long game, and that is why most people don't do it because they don't have the discipline or the wherewithal. It's no different than Zillow or Ylopo like this. Is a lead platform. And so many agents and lenders invest in that stuff. They give it 3 months and they bail because they didn't close a deal. But we all know that a lot of times with leads, you're catching them at the top of the funnel. Right. And top of the funnel can mean like they're 12 months away. And the ones who typically win are the ones who nurture. And so this is no different than nurturing a lead. It's nurturing your brand.
Right.
It's the same concept, and it's a little bit longer game. But if you do it effectively and you do it consistently and you understand how to play the social media game, gosh darn it, it's powerful. And the thing I will say to that is, especially for like people watching this locally, like I think one of the reasons why the appeal is and why I've earned a place on a stage at big events is because I present myself as like. I've hung out in these rooms with some very arrogant people and they get big heads and they want to talk about the high level strategy stuff. And I'm always watching and studying saying, how can I deliver a message that's more relevant to the masses?
Right.
Like usually it's like the Gary Vaynerchuks are talking to the top 5%. Well, I want to talk to the 95.
Sure.
And so it's like, I'm a guy from the Midwest, St. Louis, essentially doesn't exist on the map, right? To these audiences on the East and West Coast. And what I'm telling the audience is look at me. I was able to do this 100% organically just by taking some chances and just being consistent and just being disciplined and just sharing my life. Everybody in this room, you can do the exact same thing. And let me show you some examples.
Right.
And that's what I do. And so what I typically will do is I'm not going to show them examples of my highest quality videos all the time that I do with my videographer because that's intimidating.
Yeah.
But here's what you can do. And here's how you can do it. And I think that's important for people to understand is that like, I'm not a silver spoon kid. I'm a typical St. Louis. I had a good upbringing, middle class, whatever. But I didn't come from money. I didn't come from an acting family. None of that stuff.
Yeah, I didn't have all the connections built in when you were born.
Nothing.
Right?
I don't even come from a real estate family. It's none of that. It's really just simply what you're capable of building from a networking perspective. Is ginormous with this consistency.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right, so one thing you said there that I want to address just kind of briefly here is the word brand, because I think a lot of small businesses in general, they've heard branding and it's an expensive, it's time consuming, it's kind of a dirty word at this point.
Sure.
But from what I'm hearing, and I think what we've both experienced is if you want to have the kind of company someday where you just attract business and you're not out there chasing it anymore, it's all brand, right? Yeah. So for somebody that's still kind of on the fence there about this, are there any anything you can kind of give them in terms of insight about why that's where they should be focusing.
Sure. Well, first of all, again, I've said this several times. Get over the fact that you're not a narcissist. That's a popular word nowadays.
Right.
You're not an attention whore. I mean, okay, maybe you are, but that's the design. Like, how do you think Nike sells so many shoes? Because they're attention whores. Why do you think Coca-Cola sells so many cans of soda?
Yeah.
Because they've done a really good job of branding themselves.
Right.
And you have to look at yourself. You, a real estate agent, you're Nike. You're Coca-Cola. But it's your name. And so we were even talking this before we started today, was you call yourself the Pfitzer region. That's kind of arrogant. It's like you're so full of yourself. I'm not really. I'm a very humble person. It was really just it was the simple fact of, and I have partners, by the way, and their name aren't on it, but they recognize that, look, you've built a name for yourself. If you call yourself the Arnold region, because that's where our hub office is, nobody's going to know what the heck that means.
Yeah.
So it's like, let's go ahead and leverage and take advantage of the name you've built. And I've got a lot of friends who've done that in the business now, and it's a spin-off of their name. For me, I have such a unique name. It became something that's memorable. So come up with something that you think, like I said, when it comes to your brand, is get over the fact that you think to yourself, or you read an article about how we live in a narcissist society. Yeah, we do.
Right.
You're damn right
It's
we
America.
do. It's the way it is, right? So it's like, if that bothers you, then this may not be for you. And that's
running your own
okay.
business in
Correct.
that case.
Or, you know what? Just know that you're going to be perpetually doing the lead game or the FSBO game or the whatever. That's fine. But you just got to know, it goes back to, and I wanted to say this earlier, when it comes to sharing your life, a lot of people say, that's too invasive. No way. And I'm like, cool. And like when I stand on stages, I will literally say, listen, if you're not into sharing your life, you can go ahead and walk out of here right now. You're not going to offend me. It's just not for you.
Sure.
But I'm going to tell you, that's why I'm winning. Because even though my wife doesn't love me always sharing my 14-month daughter, that's what content people want.
Oh, yeah.
Little
Puppies,
babies, cats.
Babies and puppies
Yeah,
and cats.
all that stuff. It's like, share that stuff. So even if you don't have your own kids, go borrow your niece and nephew.
Right.
You might have grandkids. Share that stuff because people just love it and they want to eat it up. And just get over the fact that you're in a business where you're building a brand. You are an entrepreneur. You are a business owner. Even if you work for a brokerage, you work for yourself.
Yep.
You are the brand. Build your brand.
Yeah. And I think I also try to tell people, it's like, if you're afraid of the word brand, just replace it with reputation.
Whatever.
Right? It's like, do you want to be known by people? Is it helpful for people to know who you are and what you do? Yes. Okay. You need to embrace it, right? Yeah. Well, so one of the last things I want to ask you about is resources, right? So people, obviously there's a lot of good stuff here. There's probably a lot of questions that this kind of conversation generates for somebody that's especially looking to get started. So are there recommendations on kind of where they can go to learn this stuff, or people they should follow other than you or me to learn this stuff?
Yeah. What I tell people is, it's very simple, is most of you, if you're watching this, you're probably on social media. And so if you're on social media, what is it that captures your attention? Who is it that captures your attention? And again, remember the algorithm game. Remember how social media is evolving. You have to actually not only play the game to get yourself seen, you have to play the game to see what you want to see.
Right.
And so it's like, for me, like Tristan Ahumada shares amazing content, and I don't want to miss any of his posts because a lot of it I repurpose and share.
Okay.
So I make sure, as a strategy, when I'm on Facebook every day or Instagram, I am liking his post, even if I don't even read it. I'm just liking it to let Facebook algorithm know, keep putting it, keep showing it to me. So go find the people that you're interested in, because that's what you want to emulate. And again, remember, you find what it is that's easy for you to regurgitate. Yeah. Find what it is easy. So again, hobbies and
yeah,
passions.
It doesn't have to be other real estate agents,
Correct.
right? I mean, this could be anybody you like to follow.
Like
right?
Gary Vee is a great example.
Yeah.
Grant Cardone is somebody else that I know a lot of people look up to. And they're not necessarily selling real estate, but they do a really good job of selling a brand. And so David Goggins. Gosh, I love that guy.
Yeah.
And so I follow him because I'm sucked into it, but that's a fitness thing. And so find the people, and I'd say like 5 to 10 that you are most intrigued by. And I know, like with my wife, it's makeup, it's other women sharing their lives, and it's fascinating to me when I watch that, and I'm kind of studying, because I tell my wife, I'm like, I really understand this game. We could make you an influencer too in a different space. But it's like, I'm paying attention because I know that my wife is the norm. And so this is the way my brain works. I'm thinking to myself, if I'm a realtor, female realtor, and and I'm pretty, or it doesn't even matter actually, but I understand makeup or hair or whatever, I'm going to probably put out a lot of content around that because that's going to suck a lot of other women in, because I know it does, because my wife's watching it every single day.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you have more followers, and you're going to just drip the real estate thing in from time to time. But guess what? More of those followers are going to feel more comfortable with you because they love following you because you share really good tips on how you put your hair up that day, or how you put your blush on. I don't know, whatever. I don't even know what to say about that. But yeah,
we don't know anything
but
about
that's
that.
my point. Or cooking is the same thing.
Right,
I mean, I will tell you a funny story is I started following a lender once because they were doing meal prep. I don't meal prep, but I found it fascinating.
Right.
And I got sucked into 15-minute videos watching this gal meal prep. And I was thinking to myself, gosh, if I'm doing this, who else is getting sucked into this?
Yeah.
But that's my point. That's a stupid, boring topic.
I don't know. One of my most popular live videos was cooking. Yeah, barbecuing.
It works, man.
Yeah.
So it's yeah.
Very cool. Okay. Well, I know a lot of people watching are probably curious to continue to learn more from you. So where is it? Is it Facebook the best place to get, follow you and also get in touch if they want to bring you to an event or something like that?
I say, well, first of all, for following purposes, I'm do a lot on Facebook. I do a lot on Instagram. Actually, I really work focusing on Instagram now. I'm dabbling with TikTok. I believe that's the next platform. I have a YouTube channel where we've got hundreds of videos, and we continue to put stuff up every day. I'm also on LinkedIn. So wherever you want to be is where I am. I'm not on Twitter because it just doesn't work for the video game as much. But yeah, so any of those places, and then yeah, I mean you can find me and DM me on any of those platforms. You can just Google my name and you'll find me. My cell phone's probably out there. I have no problem giving it for anybody that wants to reach out. And yeah, I love to share. This is fun. This is my passion. I'm sure you can sense it.
Of course.
And I love to share it and try to help other real estate professionals, including my own competition, mortgage professionals.
Sure.
There's so much business. There's more business than I can handle. So let me help you dominate your market, and I'm happy to share. Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, Jeff, this has been really great conversation. Lots of takeaways.
Love it.
And thank you for joining us on our first episode of the Real Marketing Show.
Honored to be here.
Yeah, exciting stuff. And for those of you tuning in, we want to thank you for watching, and we will be back with another interview next month.